Hello friends, my name is Hemant and today we'll be learning async await and promises in JavaScript. So what I have done so far is created a folder called async and have one index.js file in it. And today what we are going to learn is async await and promises. So JavaScript produces several mechanisms for handling asynchronous operation, with async and await being the most modern and widely used. So let's break them down along with other asynchronous keyword. So first we'll talk about async. Okay, so async and await. So these keywords allow you to write an asynchronous code that looks synchronous, making it easier to read and manage. So async function. So what is async function? So declaring a function as async means it always returns a promise. Inside an async function, you can use the await keyword to pause execution until a promise resolve. So let me give you an example. Async function fetch data. Okay, and inside this I'll return hello async. Okay, and below that I will call fetch data. So now I'm not writing await inside my async function. So when I do that, I need to write then. Okay, and then I'll console log whatever is present in the return statement. Now let's see. I am saving this and I'm trying to run the application or the run the file using node. Node index.js would give me hello async. So if you see, I have this async before my function and I'm using then. So this is how whenever you write async function, you have to call then. So if you don't want to call then, so what you can do is you can write await. So let me write down a function, new function, async function fetch data, and I'll give it a 1. Okay, inside this I will write, let me call an API. Okay, so there is a free API which I normally use, which is https JSON placeholder dot typecode dot com slash todos slash 1. Okay, and then I'll call constant JSON is equal to await data.json, and let me console log this JSON. Okay, after this I will call fetch data1 and I will comment this out. Okay, okay, now I try to run fetch data1 inside this index.js. So what it does is it gets the first to do in this API call. So what I'm doing is I have an async function. Okay, now I don't want to write dot then and then console dot log. So what I've done is I have introduced the await keyword. So await keyword would wait to fetch the data from this. So whenever we get the data, we would then call the dot json on the data and we are console logging that. So this is how you can use the keyword await. Now let us go into promises. promises. Okay, and let me comment this out. So what are promises? So before async await, JavaScript use promises for handling asynchronous operation. A promise represent a value that may be available now or later or never. Okay, so it has input as resolve and reject. So let me write constant and give it a name as my promise is equal to, I'll create one new promise, and inside this I would have an arrow function. An argument inside this would be resolve, reject, and I will write a function here site timeout, and inside that let's have an arrow function which uses the resolve which we have passed. Promise resolved. Okay, and let's wait on this for 2 seconds. Okay, so now inside this, as we had discussed earlier, we do not have await, async and await. So what I can do is write a then statement, my promise dot then. So it waits on the response, and then we'll write console dot log. Okay, and let's see if this resolves. Node index.js. So if you see, it waited for 2 seconds and then it printed promise result. Let me do it again. It will wait for 2 seconds and then it would print promise result. So this is how you can use promises. Okay, so there is another function called another function called callback function. Now let's work on this callback function, commenting out. So how to use callbacks? Older JavaScript code often relied on callbacks, but they led to callback hell when too many nested functions were used. So you'll come to know when I write a callback function. So function fetch data, and inside this I have a callback, back, and let me create a set timeout function in this, and arrow function calling inside set timeout. Here I will call back the function which I have passed, callback data received. Okay, and let's give it a time of 2 seconds. So this is my callback function being called after 2 seconds. So fetch data, and inside this I will call the console.log. So here if you can see, there is no then function. So output would be presented on the screen after 2 seconds. So let me again call index.js on node. So waiting for 2 seconds, and then we have data received. So this is how you write callback function. So, but the issue with this was this approach became harder to maintain, leading to rise of promises and async and await. So this was the main reason why we have promises, async and await. Next, there are other asynchronous keys as well, which is promise dot all. Now we'll see how we will call promise dot all. Okay. Okay, let me have one constant as p1 is equal to promise dot resolve. So we have seen in the earlier functions as well, we are using the same promise dot resolve, and I have first. Okay, and I have a second p2 function wherein we have new promise. Whenever we do new promise, we can either use resolve and reject. I am using resolve in this, and set timeout. And inside this I have another arrow function, and inside this I am resolving second function. And let me wait on this for 1 second. Okay, now I have two promises. Okay, and what I will do is I will call both the promises at once. So how can I do that? Promise dot all, and inside this I will pass the array of my promises p1 and p2 dot then, and I will do console log. Okay, so what I am expecting is um, first being printed on the screen, and after 1 second I'll have second. Okay, so let me do node index.js, enter. Okay, we have some issue in this. Let's see what's the issue. Okay, so we missed the bracket here. So what it does is it will call both the promises on the promise dot all p1 and p2, and then it will console log. So now let's see if not node index.js. So if you see, we have printed first and second. So this is how you can call more than one promises by using promise dot all. So this is what I wanted to discuss in async, await, callback, and promises in this video. Thanks for watching, friends. We will meet in the next video. Thank you.